Okay, so here we are with mom and dad at the farm. It's the 11th of January, 2019. And this little vignette or this little video is going to be called Dental School. So, Mom, you want to start?
Well, when we were in dental school, we had just the one child, Chad, our first baby, and also during that time too, I had a miscarriage in between Chad and Todd, and that's why there's 3 years difference between Chad and Todd.
It was a major miscarriage.
It was a major miscarriage, and of course, I was only 18 at that time, and I really didn't know all of the particulars about
You were 19 at least, because you were married at 18.
18, yes, yes, right. So I wasn't very smart as far as babies and what happens and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I one day Bob had already gone to school with his buddies. They all of the dental students that were members of the church carpooled every day back and forth to the school. They would take their turn of 1 week I'll drive all this and da 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 da. And so anyway, one day I started bleeding, hemorrhaging, and I didn't know what that was. Basically, I thought it was just part of being a woman, a monthly visitor and stuff like that. And anyway, my mom and dad lived on the East Coast, and we were all the way up into Portland. And so I did not have any family at all near, other than all the way back in Virginia. Well, anyway, my best friend became the Relief Society president, and I became her best friend because she looked like my mother. And I didn't have a mother to call and say, what's going on? Can you help me? Da, da, da. And so anyway, I called her to my home and I said, what's happening? She says, well, you apparently are pregnant, but you're losing it. And so she says, we've got to get you to the doctor immediately. Well, it's interesting that his very best friend that was a dental student happened to be home that day. Bob was in school.
Older classmate.
An older close mate. And so I called him and asked him if he would please. She said, you really need to get to the doctor. So I called him, and he said, I said, could you take me to the doctor? And he said, oh, yes, sure. So I took a big pillow and put it in the back of his car and sat on that pillow. And, of course, I just bled everywhere because, I didn't know what was going on. Well, anyway, I get there, and the little nurse that was there with me, what they did is they put me just on the little, what do you call it, your examining room,
examination table?
Yeah. And anyway, they put me in front of a window, and they said, just stay there, you'll be fine. And so I'm, just getting rid of all of this blood.
Flowing.
I'm flowing like crazy. Well, anyway, pretty soon they said, well, we need to take you into the room and put you in the bed and stuff like that. And so when she did, she came over to help me, and she dropped me. I fell right there. I was too heavy for her, and she was just a little tiny short thing. But anyway, she dropped me on the floor. But anyway, I lost the baby, of course, after that, and it was no formation or anything like that, but just, mostly hemorrhaging and stuff like that. But I was only there 1 or 2 days, and then I was sent home.
Okay. So
she worked. Could you review where you were?
Well, after I got well and better and on my feet again, I decided we better go to work because Bob was in school, wasn't painting, so I went and applied at a place called White Stag. And what that was a clothing manufacturing place that made women's clothes and stuff like that. And plus they were also involved with making tents. It's called Hirsch Weiss tent making, you camp
camping.
out and camping things. And so they were involved in that. And so I was in the office and basically just kind of doing secretarial work. And I had a babysitter for Chad. Her name was Sister Tolman, Tolman. And they were members of the church, and she would keep Chad while I went to work and Bob went to school. And then I started getting headaches for some reason. I think it was just all the stress and the growing up and having a baby and
We suffered,
taking care of
you
them.
suffered with those for quite a few years there.
Mm-hmm.
You had migraines?
Heavy migraines.
Okay.
And so anyway, I worked only about a year and a half.
And once all the kids were out of the house and gone, that's when the migraines
Yes,
stopped.
No.
No, the doctor told me, he said, he gave me a pill to take, and he said, you know, you've got to stop trying to solve the whole world's problems. He said, just relax, just enjoy yourself, and you'll be fine. And so I can attest to that is true. You just got to relax when you've got this many kids and many problems and stuff like that. So it did work.
Good, Mom. Good.
But anyway, I only worked about a year and a half, and then I quit.
Yeah, I worked during the summer. One summer, the first one I painted bridges, but then the second one I got on with the U.S. Public Health Service because I was heading for a scholarship with the government, and which later caused us to go to Nome, Alaska. But right there, during that time, that summer between my sophomore and junior year, I got on with another dentist, and we checked all of the X-ray machines in Portland and the surrounding cities, all in Oregon. It was working for the state of Oregon in making them safe. We had the lead washers, and we had the aluminum filters. And we would actually put them right in the machines
You install them.
to tone it down.
So there wasn't so much radiation flying all over.
Yeah, and
Okay.
and then we would also teach them how to use the lead apron and how to protect yourself when you're taking it. We checked some really old, dangerous X-ray machines. It was very interesting.
And this was back in the 60s, so
Yeah.
that's things are a lot different, even especially today.
Mhm.
So what did you do in the church? Did you hold callings in the church and things?
Yeah, I served in the Sunday school on the stake basis.
Okay.
And in those days, we had a class once a month to teach all the other Sunday school teachers on that lessons that they had for the next 4 weeks. And that was my calling as a stake Sunday school, as an instructor for the other teachers. I thought it was interesting that that meeting was held. That was before Family Home Evenings was scheduled for Monday night. And this one time, I had that meeting on a Monday night, and I had a big final exam the next morning, on a Tuesday morning, and I usually was working. By that time, I was working at Sears selling shoes during the Thursday night and Saturdays, and so I didn't get an awful lot of chance to study. And I've always left Sundays with no study. I never have studied on Sunday. I keep it so that it was just church work. Anyway, so Monday I had the stake meeting, and I didn't get a chance to really study really well for this big exam on pharmacology, which is a very difficult class. And I took the class, took the test Tuesday morning, and I came in, and this instructor grades on the curve, and that's the first thing he does is he put the curve in. He puts the grades in. Those in this X section get an A, and this gets a B and C, and on down.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really, really interesting because I wasn't that great of a student. I did end up in dental school number 8 out of 80 students, so I was in the top 10% barely, just enough barely to get me into orthodontic school, which is what I really wanted. But anyway, on that particular exam, I remember sitting there, And he told, I had the grade, so I knew what the grade I got. And when he put it on the board there, that I was the number one student in the class. And you've got to be kidding. With this, the least amount of study, I'm sure, compared to all the rest in the class. And to get number one, I knew that the Lord had a big hand in it. Because by being number 8 in dental school, it opened up orthodontics to me. So that I got in. I got into quite a few schools in orthodontics. I applied to 12 ortho schools and got into, well, I think I lost out on the first 3 that I ranked them, and I got number 4, which was Loma Linda. So anyway, it was enough to get me into orthodontic school, which made a big difference in the family, being in orthodontics. As we hear the rest of the stories here, you'll find that it made us essentially pretty wealthy.
The only thing that I had that where I served was in the activities committee, which was, remember when we used to have
Amen and Gleaners.
yes, and then it was we had like road shows and stuff like that, theater, and so I was involved with that, but I don't remember anything else those whole 4 years that was that. But I do remember this, you know, we lived in Portland, and there really wasn't any temples close by like they are today, and that's the thing I think we miss more than anything in living there and even in Alaska, was that we just did not have the temple. All we had was church, and you know that we had to really get involved with and be involved with it, you know, to claim the blessings and everything. But anyway,
So
we had some great friends, you know, the
Iversons,
which was Ann's brother.
Anne's brother, yeah, he and
Lonnie
his wife, and they were our best friend. He was an electrician. We went swimming together. We did everything because they had 4 or 5 kids also. And I don't know whether you ever remember them, Chad, or not. But anyway, that's kind of a tragic ending to them. They ended up getting a divorce, and I just visited with her just recently, and she just does not want to have anything to do with the church.
Interesting.
Even though she's sealed in the temple and everything, it just really is.
Lonnie got remarried and even went on a mission as a couple.
Really?
Nice.
So anyway.
So let's briefly tell about San Francisco. Let's.
Well, between my junior year and my senior year, I got on with the U.S. Public Health Service and stationed in
San Francisco.
Why did you do that? What was the purpose?
Well, it was a part of the Public Health Service program that I was moving through that ended up into Alaska, and they ended up paying for our orthodontic training.
So, but why did you choose to get into the Public Health Service? What was the reasoning there? Or was
they don't get put on the front lines. They don't.
It's a
You mean from a
military
military
It uses-
obligation.
Yeah, it uses the 2-year military obligation and makes you like right now. I'm a veteran because I served my 2 years in Nome, Alaska as a dentist.
I see.
So it's with the U.S. Public Health Service. As part of there are 7 branches of the military. The Army, the Navy, and the Air Force is just 3. There are 4 more branches.
Interesting.
Coast Guard, Public Health Service, Coast and Geodetic Survey. I can't remember the others, but in the U.S. Public Health Service, it's just nurses and doctors.
I see.
That's all we have.
Okay.
And they take care of the American Indian, all the reservations.
And this was prior to the Korean and Vietnam Wars.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Well, in fact, if he had stayed in that, he would have probably ended up being, you know, a doctor for the war, the Vietnam War and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so that's why we kind of said, well, we don't want that.
Yeah.
Because we never knew one day whether, you know,
you don't
would
know.
we go tomorrow or
Right.
5 years from now. So he
Okay.
got out of that.
Well, you know what orthodontics has done for us
Sure.
as a family, all of us. and the children right now, all of us. And that's where this all is leading to in Portland, Oregon, Nome, Alaska, and on into California, Loma Linda. We'll cover that on another interview. But all of that is leading towards that specialty of orthodontics, which gives us what we have right today.
Yep.